and welcome to our first SAP Workflow Expert video. In this video, we will show you how to create your first Hello World workflow template. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome to another SAP Workflow Expert video. Today, we're going to create your Hello Workflow template in the Workflow Builder. To get to the Workflow Builder in SAP, there are two ways. You can enter a transaction code in the transaction code screen. The transaction code is SWDD. Then you can click the green check mark or hit enter on your keyboard, and that'll bring you to the Workflow Builder. Alternatively, there is another method through the menu path by following the menu path Tools, Business Workflow, Development, Definition Tools, Workflow Builder, and you'll see that the Workflow Builder is here with the transaction code beside it. By double-clicking here, you can enter the Workflow Builder. When you enter the Workflow Builder, you'll notice the top of the screen has the title of the screen, Workflow Builder, and it shows you the mode you're in, which is change. This is an odd thing. SAP always puts you in change mode when you enter the Workflow Builder, and then it shows you the text that defines the workflow template that is currently loaded. To create a new workflow, one of the functions in the top left corner is the white sheet of paper, and that creates a new workflow by clicking this button. It gives us a blank screen, and it clears out all the data for us. You'll notice that there are 5 sections of the screen. The first is the information area, which shows you the workflow number, the version, and its status. You'll notice this says that the current workflow template is not saved. Next is the navigation area, and this will show you which step has been highlighted and how many steps there are in the workflow, and you can navigate to any of them at any one point in time. The next section, third section down on the left-hand side, is called the Objects section of the screen, and here's kind of all the goodies that you find in the Workflow Builder. Here you can show all the step types that can be inserted into the workflow. The workflow container, which is a listing of all the variables that the workflow keeps track of. These variables are passed back and forth between the various layers, down to the business object and back, and can be exchanged with events and such. My Workflow and Tasks, which is simply a listing of the latest workflows and tasks that you've worked on. Document templates. SAP has a very good document workflow functionality, and with this you can take a template, fill it with information, pass it around for approval. These templates are stored here. Bottom area of the screen is the messages area. It shows you the result of the syntax check, a where used list if you're searching for something, any messages that occur when you do a syntax check or when you execute a test, and any search results. And you can see that if there are alternatives to display in any given area of the workflow screen, you can click on the yellow bar on top of the section, and it will give you the various options of what can be exchanged into that area. The top right portion of the screen is the graphical model. You can see this is divided into 2 sections. You've got an overview here on the right and the detailed version on the left. It can also be shown in different formats, including business process modeling language, various versions, internal XML, tree modeling, or the graphical model. Obviously for me, the preferred is the graphical model. Here they have several standard utilities such as cut, copy, paste, delete. You can change the steps, create new steps, display a step by selecting it and clicking on there. You can undo, redo, and line the icons up, focus in, zoom out, etc. So it's a fairly nice user interface for creating your first workflow. So what we'll do first, to save a workflow, you need to create basic data. So let's go to the basic data. You get to basic data by clicking on the hat icon, and it needs an abbreviation. So we'll call it ZWS Hello. We're going to call this our Hello workflow. In SAP, naming conventions are such that if it starts with a Z, that means that it has been done by somebody other than SAP. Sometimes Y can mean the same thing. And I always prefix the object I'm playing with its technical prefix. So in this case, it's WS for a workflow template. And then a brief abbreviation of what the workflow is about. Description is simply description, and we can change the release status to either implemented or released, and it'll let us run it when we want to test it. Our work item text is we're going to say hello workflow, and we'll see where that shows up in a little bit. So we're going to save this. When we click the save button, it'll ask us for a few technical things. We'll cover those in a later episode. And now it will provide us with our WS number. So you can see here WS is the SAP abbreviation for workflow template. And then it provides us with an ID number for this specific template. It provides us with a version number. The version is still 0. And the status is new because it has not been activated and saved. So we green arrow back to the overview screen and we'll activate. You'll see here that the syntax check is run, and it gives us a warning message that there's no start events or start transactions. There's no way to start the workflow effectively. That's okay, because we'll deal with that. But now we've got active and saved. So now we need to insert a step into the workflow. The question is, what do we want our workflow to do? We need our user to make a decision. So what we're going to do is we're going to drag this into the undefined step in the workflow, and we're going to drop it. And this puts the user decision step in here and asks us for some information. The first piece of information is the title. This is going to be the question we are asking our end user. In this case, it is simply, do you approve? You can add up to 4 parameters into your title, and you simply reference those parameters with an ampersand and the number of the parameter. Agent determination is a key development area for SAP Workflow. It can get very complicated. However, in this case, what we're going to do is we're just going to send it to a user. This will make it very easy for our first workflow. However, you can see here that we can send it to the workflow initiator, the superior of a workflow initiator, if we've got the HR system enabled and the system can actually determine who the superior is. We can send it to a work center, a rule, which is a customized piece of code that calculates who should get the task, a role, which is a security role, a job in the HR area, an org unit in the HR area, a position in the HR area, a specific user, or we can calculate our own expression. For now, we're just going to send it to ourselves. And the decision texts are going to be yes and no. These are actually going to be the buttons that we're allowed to click on in the decision step. When we model it in the graphical UI, you're going to see two outcomes come out of this step, and they will have labels on them, and these will be the labels here. So the labels we're going to put are approved and rejected. The justification column asks us if we need to provide a justification for the decision. In a lot of cases, in a business context, you'll require a justification if you reject. If you're going to reject it, tell me why so I can fix it. So at this point in time, if we hit the green check mark, that transfers the step information to the workflow, effectively saves it to the database. And now we've got a workflow. And you can see here, we've got two outcomes out of this step, approved and rejected. And then the workflow will end. So we can save the workflow template. And in my habits that I've gained over the years, what I normally do is I save, activate, and that's just the first. It's a habit. You can activate right away and it'll save. Generally, what I do is I save first, get any messages, activate, get any further messages on the syntax check. You can see that it switched our rejected and improved around as well. And now we've got our overview section here, which is a little bit smaller scale. You can change the scale by moving the green box around and change the focus of the main area of the screen. So, now how do we test our Hello workflow? There's a wrench icon in the function strip of the screen, and we can either hit F8 on the keyboard or we can click the wrench. By clicking the execute button, it will start the workflow and it will provide us with that decision step. You can see here the text we put in, do you approve, is prompted to us. And we have several alternatives, yes, no, and you'll notice that there is one that we did not put in there. This is always an option, and we can cancel and keep the work item in our inbox to deal with later. In case we're not ready to make a decision right now, we can choose this one. But in this case, we're going to choose no. And remember, we asked for a justification. So we have to provide one. Type your justification in. You can change the title if you want. You can undo. You can load local files. You can export this as a local file. And click the check mark. And it's done. So now we can go see the workflow log. The workflow log shows us in graphical format what happened in the workflow. The workflow got launched, the step do you approve was launched, and the workflow ended. There's also a technical view you can reach by clicking the List with Technical Details button in the function strip. This is a little more interesting, provides a little more detail. You can see our WSID number. The TSID number is the task number that got launched when we asked for the do you approve. We can see any messages that happen either at the text level or at the workflow level. You can see the values in the container, the descriptions, any deadlines, history. You can see here our workflow was created at server time 4:04. Workflow started 4:04:53, 1 second later. And then the processing was complete 1 minute later. So this workflow is ended. We can go back to the ActiveX version. and we see the result that the approval step was rejected. You can also see the graphical workflow log, and it shows you the path in the graphic that the workflow took. The workflow was started, it went to the approval step, it was rejected, and the workflow was completed. We'll click the green arrow back to our definition screen, and it is that easy to create your first workflow template. So a quick review. Again, we've got the information area up here with our WS number, our version number, and our status. We have the navigation area showing all the steps that we've got in the workflow. And we've got our object area, what I call my toolbox. That tells me all the various objects that I can use and click and drag into the workflow. The various variables that are in my workflow that I can transfer down to my task level and business objects. I've got the results of my syntax check, and I've got my graphical model. I inserted the decision step, gave myself 2 options, and then I tested by use of the wrench icon. And that summarizes the creation of the Hello World workflow template. If there's any questions, please feel free to note them below. Please subscribe and give us a thumbs up, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much.